Namaskar, this is Akhilesh Bhargava. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. With 2019 coming to an end, it's time to look back at the year that was with a perfect 2020 vision. It was a year, according to us, when there were abundant signs of an unfolding economic crisis, which the government very strangely chose to ignore purely for very political reasons. Ironically, this very attitude of the government of letting the problems languish and worsen further were at the cost of livelihood and jobs for the middle class sector in particular. And surprisingly, this indifference of the government letting things worsen got it huge political dividends, and the government came back to power with bigger numbers. To us, it was a year of a big bang disappointment because this crisis was very visible and it could have been averted if remedial measures had been taken on time, if the problem had been recognized on time, which was not done. And today we are in a prolonged, worrisome slowdown. What are the revelations that have come out in this year as far as the Indian economy is concerned, which we need to bear in mind, which we need to factor when we talk about 2020 and beyond? Here are those issues, here are those revelations. The first one, there is a rot across the board in the Indian banking, financial and capital market system. If the failures of banks, the bankruptcy of banks was alarming, then came the big NBFC collapses, and then came the final one, which was the giant fraud committed by Carvey on its customers. There is a complete rot across the system which remains unresolved despite all kinds of measures being taken by the government. The system is rife with NPAs, dud loans, bogus loans and frauds. Until that is not sorted out, the economy will continue to struggle. The second one, monetary policy has its limitations. You may cut interest rates, you may make money cheaper, you may make money easily available, but that doesn't mean that borrowing will go up. Investors and consumers will be willing to borrow and invest and spend only if they have confidence in the economy. And with that missing, the interest rate cuts that were initiated, 5 consecutive ones in 2019, finally came to a stop in December when the Monetary Policy Committee decided to take a pause, and the Reserve Bank of India said now the ball is in the government's court as far as measures to revive the economy are concerned. So, monetary policy, interest rate cuts has its own limitations. The next one, tax targets must be set up in sync with the growth rate of the economy, because if the economy grows, tax collection also goes up in tandem. We have been witnessing a situation where the GDP growth has been below 5% and the tax collection target has been increased by a whopping 19%. That cannot work. Such kind of tax collection targets cannot be met, and they are not being met. And thus for the future, the lesson comes is take tax collection targets, set them after predicting very accurately what will be the growth rate of the economy. They cannot be disjointed or disconnected with each other. The next revelation, with its attitude of denial, the government erred. The government erred in terms of predicting the intensity, continuity and sharpness of the economic decline that we have seen. Growth rates have been going down very contrary to the government's own predictions. The GDP growth rates were wrongly predicted. The extent to which the decline would continue were wrongly predicted. And because of that, the government was certainly caught unawares. The government also erred in predicting when will the slowdown bottom out and when will revival commence, the green shoots of revival as we call it. On a number of occasions, the government claimed that green shoots were visible, which they were not. And that completely has to do with the government's attitude of not accepting the gravity of the problem. The next revelation, the system continues to be loaded and brimming with NPAs. As at September 2019, as per the Reserve Bank of India, gross NPAs were 9.3% of the total loans. They are expected to increase to 9.9% at the same time next year. With Mudra loan NPAs not yet recognized, with MSME loan NPAs not yet recognized, the reality is NPAs will continue to shoot up and the banking system will see respite only when growth in the economy comes back such that the relative impact of the NPAs on bank balance sheets diminishes. So, NPAs continue. The next revelation, the government is a big predator and not a facilitator. The government knows how to close down enterprises by virtue of measures like demonetization or complicated GST, difficult tax measures, complicated corporate laws, etc. And after they get closed, the government doesn't know the formula how to revive them. The government in fact remains the biggest threat to enterprises and it only knows closures, it doesn't know how to reopen them. The animal spirits in the economy did not get revived and they will not get revived merely because the government initiates interest rate cuts and tax rate cuts. Animal spirits will get revived only when confidence in the economy returns, and that's the next revelation. Unless the confidence doesn't return, rate cuts are not going to help. The next unfortunate revelation, US-China trade wars presented a great opportunity for India to move into those markets which were being ceded by China, and we did not move into them. That space got occupied by a Bangladesh, by a Thailand, by a Philippines, by a Vietnam and an Indonesia, but not India. And that's because we are not able to compete internationally. That was a huge missed opportunity. The next revelation, doctoring of statistics by the government continues and we see no halt to it. It will still take time before this habit of the government stops, and till that doesn't get done, confidence continues to be skittish in the economy. With the collapse of the likes of ILFS, DHFL, HDIL, RCOM, RCAP, Jet Airways and many other large corporates, and it being revealed that all of them have had auditor misdemeanors, the balance sheets and financial statements and well-being of corporates continue to be suspect. That's our next revelation. And finally, a revelation that comes from the spouse of the finance minister himself. He says that the BJP has no economic philosophy, it has no economic architecture of its own. And that explains why we have a hollow and hurried declaration by the Prime Minister of a 5 trillion economy target. And that also explains why, while the economy has been languishing and the slowdown continues, the government is yet to come out with its large picture, with its big picture that it is pursuing. It continues to come out with patchy reforms. That's because an overall philosophy and overall architecture is missing. That's the revelation of the year. It comes from the finance minister's husband, Mr. Prabhakar himself. The Indian economy has been a dynamic one. It may be in a slowdown phase at the moment, but it carries with itself the hopes and potential of a 1.3 billion population. We at HW News have always believed in coming up with quick, accurate, unbiased and incisive reports on matters of current interest on the economy, business and finance. And 2019 was certainly an interesting year for us. Our viewers rewarded us in growing numbers with their patronage, and we have of course been grateful and thankful to them. And we do hope that we continue to live to the expectations of the viewers and certainly set better benchmarks for them and for ourselves in 2020 and beyond. This is Akhilesh Bhargava signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.
If you like this video, please share it, and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, well, subscribe to our YouTube channel.